Hello guys, it's your boy AD back with another video. Now in today's video we're gonna be doing when Rimuru Tempest went to the world of Naruto basically. So yeah, all the elemental nations. Or as this series would be called if it was a fan fiction, would be the Supreme Demon Lord Unification in the cruel world of Ninja. So yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys will enjoy this video. I know I've been gone for a while and such and whatnot. But this is gonna be pretty much my final return. So yeah, anyways, I will try to actually be uploading more and stuff like that. And as for what if Naruto, what if Naruto was Ainz or whatever the last one was, bro. The last video I was doing the what if Naruto was Ainz reincarnation and whatnot. I might finish that. I'm not too sure. If people ask for it, I'm gonna finish it. But as of right now, I'm not too sure if I'm gonna finish it. Right now, I'm mainly focusing on this and the fan fiction that I'm doing right now, which is called The Supreme Demon Lord on a World Vacation, which is basically a One Piece X Tensei Slime. So yeah. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy, like I said, and yeah. As for the question of the day, I'm wondering if which of the new animes that's come out this year basically is your favorite so far, and what you thought about the overall season 4. Before let's get this video started. We start this off. Oh yeah, this is not a scripted what if, by the way. Just to make it clear, this is not scripted. It's just off my mind or whatever. But yeah, anyways, let's get started. As we start this off in basically a room which has a desk and a few swords and such in it. This was basically Rimuru's office of sword. The swords were basically just like decoration type swords and stuff and all that stuff. As we see Shuna basically standing by Rimuru's side, as she basically Shion basically staying by Rimuru's side as the secretary or whatever, as she basically fucking hell, I'm already messing this up, and sorry, this is like my first freaking Tensei Slime what if, and I haven't watched Tensei Slime in a minute, so I'm kind of bugging, but yeah, sorry. Anyways, as we see her standing next to Rimuru, as Rimuru started thinking to himself, talking. Oh yeah, this is just to be clear, this is end of the light novels Rimuru. So basically, the outer being, whatever, basically. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna go more over that later on, but yeah, in this version is not Wafa, it's Sayal. So yeah. For the Great Sage, whatever, if you didn't know. But yeah, anyways, as Rimuru started to think to himself, anyways, as I've been trying to say for the last 30 minutes or something, Rimuru basically was chilling in his office, basically doing paperwork. As again, this is the end of the series Rimuru, so at the moment, basically the whole world is basically under Rimuru's control at this point. Not like fully per se, not like he's completely ruling the whole world, but basically basically the whole forest became part of his country basically, and a bunch of others. He has alliances with basically at least a quarter of the countries. He's basically the strongest demon lord, and has basically good relationship with basically all of them. So none of them would really attack him or anything, and would basically do little favors for him here and there if he asked. and that kind of stuff. So he's kind of like basically the ruler of the world, basically at this point. So yeah. Anyways, same thing with like the other four dragons. Uh, well, yeah, the other four dragons. Even obviously Baldoa being included. So the other three, I guess. But yeah. Of course, him and Melim was still cool, obviously. Him and Gaoku and all that stuff. And yes, he is a bit stronger than Guy, and would beat him in a fight if it came down to it. But both of them would rather avoid it, because it would basically probably blow up the whole fucking continent type shit. So yeah, planet actually. But yeah, we talk about that. Anyways, as we see Rimuru basically chilling, like I said, and he ended up basically working the whole entire for like 5 hours, just doing straight paperwork. As after this, he took a deep breath, sighing to himself, thinking how he needs a vacation. As he ended up saying that he might need a vacation soon, which caught Shuna's attention, but she did not really comment on it, as she simply nodded to herself, as she made a mental note to herself to basically call the others and basically explain the situation to them. As she ended up following Rimuru, as Rimuru basically went about going on the Tempest Federation or Empire now, as he ended up basically just going around, basically checking on people, just like saying hi to the citizens and shit like that, all that kind of stuff, just basically going on. By the end of the day, Rimuru ended up going back, basically home, as we have a small time skip of about a week later, as we see Rimuru basically just chilling again as usual, when he basically suddenly got a visit basically by Diablo, who basically ended up basically telling Rimuru that him and everyone else in the whole fucking 12 executives, the other demon lords and whatnot, basically all of them basically came with a little plan for Rimuru. It was basically a vacation trip, basically, as they ended up basically talking about it for a little while, which Diablo explained that he basically was sent to basically go along with Rimuru. And yeah, as we have a time skip to the end of the day, as Rimuru basically ended up caving in and basically taking the vacation and accepting to go with Diablo as basically the side butler or whatever, as he ended up saying goodbye to everyone, taking a temporary break. Basically, he used a skill called, which was basically cloning but evolved into parallel self, whatever, as it was basically a parallel version of him. So he basically left that there to basically make sure that everything went right, which, yeah, as he ended up basically saying goodbye to them and so on, saying how he's gonna miss them and whatnot, and basically going on a vacation, opening a little portal made of basically, opening a portal, as he ended up basically just going through it. And as we have a skip over to the elemental nations to see in the era far before the ninjas were born. It was in the era of the samurais, back in the time of the goddess known as Kaguya Otsutsuki and her two sons, Hagoromo and Hamura. This was the time where Hamura and Hagoromo had been getting ready to fight Kaguya. This was at the peak of the tension, where there was about to escalate into a fight, when they suddenly saw a portal opening up to see uh basically a being step out of it. The being had long, semi-long, basically blue hair, which looked unnaturally, basically perfect, basically, with golden eyes and basically a very, I would say, pretty, I guess, freaking figure and whatnot. As they had basically a big black, basically strange black clothing with some golden tint to it. As the being stepped out the portal, oh gosh. Anyways, as I was trying to freaking say, as the being basically stepped out the portal, as the portal closed behind them, not long after, to basically the being took a deep breath, even though the being did not really need to breathe, unknown to Hagoromo, Hamura, and Kaguya, as the being basically started to look around until the being spotted something that caught his attention. As we skip over to Rimuru's POV, as Rimuru looked down to see Kaguya basically standing on one side, as we see Hagoromo and Hamura standing on the other side. As this was quite intriguing to Rimuru, as he could feel these three beings, my bad, were fairly strong compared to the rest of the planet. As anyways, keep getting interrupted like 5 times. But yeah, anyways, fucking hell. As Rimuru realized that these beings were not only the strongest being he could find in this planet at the moment, anyways, as he also could tell that these beings were clearly not human, just based off their appearances. However, he could feel that 2 of them had the same energy as some of the other humans. He could tell that Hagoromo and Hamura basically had half human, basically, and half Utsuki, but he didn't know it was Utsuki. He just basically, could feel like they were not human, basically. As Rimuru basically looked down at them for a long minute, calculating what he should do next, as he then asked Ciel, what are these? He basically asked Ciel, what are these beings? As Ciel basically would respond saying, analyzing those beings, basically, as after a minute or so of Ciel analyzing them, he basically said, these beings are known as Kaguya Otsutsuki, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, and Hamura Otsutsuki. The Otsutsuki's beings that are known as alien to this world, basically. As Ciel went on to give some information about the Otsutsuki, basically how they are like from outside, from like the Otsutsuki planet and whatnot, and so on. As then we see Kaguya basically start floating up to Rimuru, basically floating up to Rimuru to basically see what this being wanted. Kaguya wanted to basically see if Rimuru was on her side in some way or was gonna intervene or anything, because she could feel that Rimuru was very, very powerful. As Kaguya went up to Rimuru, basically saying, "Hello, I'm Kaguya Otsutsuki," and such. Seriously introduced herself, as Rimuru basically did the same, saying, "I'm Rimuru Tempest, the king of the Tempest Empire," and so on. As basically Kaguya went on to basically talk to him for a little bit, saying, and ending up asking what he was doing here, as he explained that he was basically on a vacation. As Kaguya then asked if he was going to intervene in this fight, as Rimuru then said no, as Kaguya nodded, as he then went back to Hagoromo and Hamura, as they started to fight for a bit, as after Kaguya ended up stabbing Hamura as the Sage of Six Paths of Hagoromo, basically awakened his Rinnegan, Rimuru ended up kind of looking at the situation and realizing that Hamura was about to die in this one. Rimuru ended up basically going over and splashing him with some healing potion, as Kaguya basically looked at Rimuru with like a glare kind of, saying that I thought you were gonna intervene. As Rimuru then said, that basically Hamura was gonna die if he didn't intervene. As Kaguya said, that was the whole point of why I stopped him. As Rimuru then kind of panicked, saying how he thought it was basically a spar and not a serious fight. As this kind of left Hagoromo, Hamura, and Kaguya flabbergasted, seeing how the fight was basically changing the whole terrain and shit. As this kind of shocked them and confused them and kind of made him terrified, seeing that this being thought this whole thing was a spar. So they were kind of scared to find out why this being would conceal a real fight, basically. As this kind of ended up with Rimuru apologizing to Kaguya, saying how like basically sorry for taking your kill kind of, and such. As he then as Kaguya then said it's fine, as Rimuru then said that he would basically do her a favor, whatever she asked him to do, he would do it basically. As Kaguya then said, alright, I will basically hold you to that, and that will basically owe me one, as to basically help me when I need it, basically. Not in this fight, but yeah. As Kaguya, and as the fight basically kind of toned down and basically kind of ended for a bit, before Kaguya and Rimuru ended up going together, with Hagoromo and Hamura going back together, with Hagoromo now having the Rinnegan. As we have a little time skip of about a week, with Kaguya letting Rimuru stay at her place, where she had explained the situation to her, which she understood. And yeah, I'm going to be calling Rimuru in this one. It's kind of obviously genderless, whatever, but I'm going to say in this one that he can actually go private parts, whatever. It's just that it was kind of a long story, but kind of he can kind of go body parts and whatnot, like private parts and whatnot, but he mostly just leaves it like genderless, basically, unless he's actually using them. But yeah, anyways, which he might or might not using this, I'm not too sure. Anyways, as Rimuru ended up taking a bit of a liking to Kaguya, seeing how Kaguya was kind of peaceful and whatnot, just that she was forced to do certain things, which he kind of sympathized with her in this, seeing how he is forced to kill a whole army to become a demon lord and all of that stuff in his past, including the Tinsel War or whatever, and so on. As Rimuru ended up basically becoming friends with Kaguya, and by the end of the week, they kind of a bit like basically started dating, as Kaguya ended up basically asking Rimuru, like, since he thought this was a small spar that he was having with her two sons or whatever, what would she consider a real fight and shit like that, and basically asking Rimuru to show her some of his powers. As Rimuru ended up saying okay, as Rimuru ended up going out, like basically outside of the house or whatever, as to like a secluded area, and he ended up releasing like a bit of his power, not really much, just like a little bit, as this basically shook like the entire freaking area they were on, like the entire continent, almost the whole planet basically, as this kind of terrified Kaguya, but not at the same time. More like it kind of turned her on a bit, because like Otsutsuki kind of fighted themselves on powers and whatnot, but it kind of terrified her seeing how strong Rimuru was. But yeah, as this we have another time skip where Rimuru basically ended up deactivating like and basically 90% of his things, like his skills and whatnot, to basically be almost human like. Just that he wouldn't actually die if he got stabbed or anything. But I got interrupted again for the fucking last time. But yeah, anyways, as Rimo made himself basically be kind of like, he basically weakened himself by taking like his skills and just turning them off basically. To the point where he basically was like just a slime that's basically human shape. So basically kind of humanish, but yeah. Obviously he could still just instantly activate them and just beat the shit out of anybody. But right now he's just turning them off because he was actually on a date with Kaguya. As they were on a date, basically just going about doing their own little thing. As not long after, Kaguya ended up going back home. As not Naruto, Rimuru ended up basically staying out, going about in the nature and such, just kind of exploring a little bit, seeing if there was anything interesting, basically. As we have a time skip of about a day later or so, as we see Rimuru going back home, which would basically be Kaguya's home, to basically look for Kaguya. But as he basically arrived, started looking around, he didn't see anybody there, he didn't hear anyone. As he called out for Kaguya was not there. As he activated his abilities back up to sense where Kaguya was, and he could feel that Kaguya was very far away from her house. As he ended up basically like running quickly there, basically just blitzing over there, to see Hagoromo and Hamura standing as Kaguya was basically being sealed away, basically put into the moon right in front of his eyes, as he froze, not really being like, he basically froze, not thinking, not fucking hell. He basically, as he watched Kaguya basically getting sealed away, he basically froze, kind of just like shocked and shit, and like not expecting that shit to happen type shit. As this happened, we see inside of Rimuru's head, we see Sao basically kind of freaking out, seeing Rimuru's anger levels basically rising from like a low 2% all the way up to like a 60 and going up, rising. As Hagoromo and Hamura turn around to see Rimuru just standing there, kind of with a look that was kind of like he wasn't even there. As Hagoromo ended up basically kind of sweating a little bit, knowing that Rimuru was very strong and that it would be kind of troublesome to fight him and such. So he ended up basically kind of going over to Rimuru, saying that how he basically thought that Rimuru did not really know what Kaguya was doing in his mind, and so he decided to basically go over to Rimuru, saying how just as Rimuru's like anger level was basically reached like 80%, saying how that Kaguya was he's sorry for seeing her up, but he had to basically, because Kaguya was basically turning the humans into the food and such and whatnot. As hearing basically Hagoromo talking shit about Kaguya basically made Rimuru's levels go back up again, even higher. This time reaching a good 99%. As you could see the anger in his eyes, as his eyes started to flash a red color, as you could see Rimuru started to basically grit his teeth, as his anger started to basically take over a little bit, as he basically ended up starting to basically, his pure magicals just basically started to leak from his body, basically started to destroy the area. As Hagoromo was about to put a hand on his shoulder to basically stop Rimuru, but his whole hand just exploded and just melted, like just evaporated. As this forced Hagomo to step back, realizing that he basically messed up. As this, as we skip about a minute later, as Rimuru basically let out a scream, as this shook the entire planet, destroying many buildings, even in the whole other side of the whole planet and shit. As many people could feel this power and basically just did not really know what the fuck that was, basically, and were basically scared for their life, basically. As Hagomo, on the other hand, as this happened, basically Hagomo was blown back like really far away, as he was blown back, and as he ended up basically crashing into Hamura, and we have a little time skip again of about 5 minutes later, with Hagomo on the ground, half dead, alongside Hamura, with a pissed off Rimuru standing over them, as he basically said that he wouldn't kill them, not because he liked them in any way, shape, or form, just because Kaguya asked him not to basically kill them, because he knew that even after knowing that Kaguya still wanted to be with Hagomo and Hamura by his side, so he had told Rimuru not to basically kill them. As this made Rimuru even more frustrated about this, knowing that he didn't want to basically go against Kaguya's wishes in this situation, and so he ended up basically just kind of kicking them away, basically annoyed, as he basically said that he wouldn't kill them because Kaguya asked him not to. As this kind of shocked them, realizing that they might have done a bit of a mistake or like judged too quickly, but they didn't really remember what Kaguya was doing, and it was like, no, he was still doing the wrong, even if he cared. But yeah, as we have a little time skip again of Rimuru after he had calmed down and taking a long nap, or a very short nap actually, of about a couple years. Or to him, that's a short nap, anyways. As we end up skipping that little nap, obviously, as when he woke up, he felt something he didn't feel before. He could feel 9 powerful chakra, which felt very similar to that one chakra that Kaguya had. It was the Ten Tails, but it was much weaker and different in many ways, as he could feel them, and he ended up also feeling the chakra of the man that made him very angry before he went to sleep. It was Hagomo Otsuki. However, Hagomo, he could feel his power was very weak at this moment, to the point that he would probably die soon, as he could not feel Hamua's chakra, however. As he ended up basically going over to Hagomo and asking him what happened in this whole time, with Hagomo basically being surprised seeing him still alive, as he basically said that he created the 9 Bijus and that Hamura went to the moon and such and whatnot, as he basically explained what happened basically in that time, basically, which is basically everything from canon, except one major difference. Well, kind of major. He had explained to the Bijus about the being that was known as the Demon Lord. He had also written down on the stone tablet of the Uchiha about this, and passed on some things to leave this knowledge behind to the clan of the Senjus and such. And afterwards, as we see Ashura and suddenly bursting alongside Indra, saying, Father, are you okay? They could feel basically Rimuru being there, as wondering who this being was, when Hagomo raised his hand, stopping them from doing anything, as they ended up having a small chat with Rimuru, making it bluntly clear that he was not a fan of Hagoromo and that the whole new reason why he's still alive is because Kaguya basically asked him to not kill him. As we have a basically another time skip when Hagoromo picked Hamura over Indra, not Hamura, Ashura over Indra, as this basically made Indra mad and go on that little thing where he got manipulated by Black Zetsu and such, which when we have a small flashback when before Rimuru went on this rampage, he could hear Cell say something about there was another being there that was basically watching. This being was from Kaguya Osusuki, basically. As this being by Zetsu, as basically Cell told Rimuru about Zetsu's existence, basically. As we see Rimuru go outside of the area, watching the fight of Indra and Ashura, as he ended up basically going and appearing right next to Black Zetsu, who was still watching the fight, not even realizing that Rimuru was there the whole time. As right as the fight got to the point where it was a clear winner, Zetsu was about to leave. However, he was stopped when he realized that there was a being standing right next to him this whole time, literally within arm's reach. As Zetsu almost shit himself, literally. Well, I don't think he can shit himself, but yeah. You get what I'm saying. He basically almost shit himself, basically. Seeing how he was basically right next to this being that could kill him at any literal second, like just glaring at him and he's fucking dead type shit. And this basically made Zetsu kind of jump back. However, Rimuru did not really respond to this. He simply sighed, saying how basically to introduce himself. He basically said, "I'm Rimuru Tempest, your mother's former lover." Basically, your mother's lover, basically. Cause yeah, as Zetsu kind of was like, if he was in love with Kaguya, he probably would be willing to help, which Zetsu was greatly hoping on, which Rimuru said that he was not going to basically help right now, as he was not from this planet, so he had no right to basically interfere with too much at the moment. However, if he would give this planet 1,000 years, if Kaguya was not back and everything didn't improve, he would start to interfere himself. As this make Zetsu nod, saying understood, not willing to push Herzog in any way, shape, or form, because Kaguya had leave a very, very strong thing in Zetsu, saying not to fuck up shit with basically Rimuru. As basically we see Rimuru basically listen to Zetsu explain how he had planned to basically revive Kaguya using Andrea and such and whatnot. The whole plan. Not to the point of the Akatsuki, because Akatsuki isn't even there yet. Just that he wanted to use Andrea's reincarnations or whatever to revive Kaguya and the Tintas and whatnot. As Rimuru nodded, saying that if by around 1,000 years or so he isn't done with it, he will simply either go up there and free Kaguya or simply take the tail beast for him and do the whole thing. As Zetsu nodded, not 100% sure, because he hasn't seen, he didn't get the image of Rimuru going on a rampage that much, so he did not know if Rimuru truly could just take the tail beast and do all this. However, Kaguya had put a thing in Black Zetsu again, saying that he shouldn't fight with this guy, that he's stupidly strong and whatnot, so he took his word for it, basically. As we ended up having a time skip with Rimuru at first going around the place, learning about certain things, However, after a few years, he ended up sleeping again for the next 1,000 years. As we have a time skip 1,000 years later to see the heavenly village, which was built upon unknowingly. The place was built upon near Kaguya's final resting place of sort. Basically, where Kaguya got killed, basically, kind of around that area. As we see, the Nine Tails basically get summoned by the master man known as Madara. Oh wait, fuck, my bad, I messed up. Sorry, shit. As fuck, sorry. We have a backwards. Go backwards a couple years as we see Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju, two kids about 5 years old, training together by the riverside as they end up basically falling into the river as Madara was trying to catch a fish. However, not Madara. Yeah, Madara trying to catch a fish. However, not Rimuru. And how Hashirama ended up sneaking up on him and kind of scaring him, which ended up to Madara falling in the river. However, before he fell, he had grabbed Hashirama's hand, and they basically both fell down into the river. As this basically like led them down, flowing into a place that they were not expecting to end up. This was at the entrance of a weird cave of sorts. It's kind of behind the waterfall, but not to the point that you couldn't really get there. Just like it was really strange place that nobody would really go into. This would end up later on being known as Madara's basically hideout of sorts, as they ended up entering this place, ended up exploring it a little bit to find out that this place was made from a very long time ago. All that was there was an empty cave with many spiderwebs, and on the throne, inside of like the very end of it, there was a big circle type shit, like basically a big space. As in the middle was a weird stonish throne, basically being the throne that we're seeing on in this picture. As there on the throne was the same, this basically being that looked almost like a statue being removed, as he was just kind of staying there, not breathing, not doing anything, because slime don't need to breathe or anything. He was just kind of just there sleeping. However, as the noise of the two basically walking near the Rimuru, basically this awakened Rimuru, as Rimuru was covered in spiderwebs and whatnot, but this did not bother him, as he ended up looking to a magic sense to see basically Madara and Hashirama basically kind of just like looking at him, just like kind of just wondering what the fuck is this statue doing here and whatnot. As they ended up looking at it and such, and if you're wondering where Diablo is this whole time, basically Rimuru just kind of told him not to do anything. Just like when he was back at Kaguya's house, he had introduced them, and he kind of just took the place, like tear it down and whatnot. But he wasn't really doing much right now. He was kind of just staying invisible, just watching him and whatnot. Which the only reason why he did not attack Madara and Hashirama at the moment was because Rimuru told them that he wanted to see what they were gonna do, as this caused Diablo not to attack or anything. So yeah, as Madara ended up basically seeing a book on the ground. This being a black, like kind of like a grimoire type shit. If you've seen Black Clover, kind of like Asta's grimoire, but yeah, but without the clovers, obviously, just yeah. It just had a weird slimish, basically a slime on it, as he opened the book to see something that absolutely terrified and shocked him. As he started to read the book, he was basically terrified by the content in the book. As he ended up dropping the book, as this caused Hashirama to look at him confused, as he ended up, as they end up picking up the book, but when they look back up, Rimuru was gone. There was no one there at the throne. It was completely empty now. Just the spider webs just attaching to the throne. However, there was nothing else. As this kind of scared the two kids, and they end up starting to go kind of paranoid, with Hashirama not realizing it yet. So he was kind of reading the book now to see what was in the book. As it said, basically this being is known as Rimuru Tempest, my glorious master. As we have a little flashback actually of basically a whole army ended up basically coming over here to basically try and take over this cave of sorts. As Diablo ended up realizing this, and he ended up basically going on a rampage, completely destroying this army, the very last man. As this, as fucking hell, what's it called? As this action caused the humans of this, basically the elemental nation, to give him the name, basically the Black Demon, basically. As we, or the Demon of Death, or whatever, they just basically give him a very dangerous title type shit. As this being was passed down in history to basically be very dangerous, basically, obviously. As seeing how the being was talking about, as Hashirama quickly realized that this was the same being, basically, that wrote this book, saying how this being that was on the throne was basically his master and much fucking stronger and shit. Saying how saying how this being on the throne was basically his master and basically a god compared to him in the most literal sense. Like this being, he basically put things saying how Rimuru is like a evil deity that would basically come with chaos and such and whatnot, as you know, Diablo is kind of, you know. So this kind of terrified Hashirama alongside Madara, as this caused Hashirama to drop the book as well. However, when they went back to pick it up as well, it was gone. As this completely terrified the two kids, as they end up running outside, as they end up bumping into a little, like he ended up running into someone, being a small girl with oddly similar looking features as the statue. However, this was too young to be that same girl, the same person, as she looked almost the same age as them. However, a little bit older, about 10, 16 or such. As this, and yes, in this one, Rimuru was like a little bit taller and shit. But yeah, as they end up bumping each other and talking for a bit, with Rimuru kind of holding in back laughter, not realizing that these kids did not realize it was the same person. As we see Rimuru basically ended up staying with them for the next years to come, as we have a time skip of about 16 years later to see Madara and Hashirama had received much trainings from Rimuru Tempest. However, they had ended up kind of splitting up a little bit, with Rimuru going with the Uzumakis a bit to, you know, just kind of chill the Uzumakis a little bit. Not fully staying with them, but not really. But mainly just kind of with them along the way and whatnot. as he ended up meeting up again with Black Zetsu, who ended up explaining how he had plans to use uh that same thing. He basically explained that the plan was still happening. So Rimo ended up saying that he might get involved soon enough, as Madara ended up basically fighting Hashirama on this time, and the Leaf Village ended up being created after they made peace, and so on. As yeah. Anyways, in this one, we have a time skip again of a couple of years, about 10 years. We see Madara Uchiha quotation mark basically in the Hidden Leaf, as Miyato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki were giving birth to one Uzumaki Naoto Namikaze. As this is when Rimuru had decided that he wanted to step in a little bit more, if not completely, as he ended up basically seeing as the Nine Tails was summoned at the Hindi village, destroying this very village, and most importantly, this being he had ended up basically destroying the whole cave that Rimuru was in, due to him basically getting summoned by Minato over there, as he ended up basically destroying that area a bit. So yeah, that kind of happened. Anyways, as we see Rimuru kind of get annoyed at this, and so he ended up basically teleporting over to see Minato using the Jupiter seal, as he was about to intervene. However, when he arrived, Minato already used the seal and was about to use it on the Nine Tails, when the sudden power kind of stopped everyone from doing anything before they could feel it. This was the same power from many years ago. Kurama felt it. This was the being that scared his father, as he looked up to see Rimuru floating over his head, just looking down at them, just watching, as this scared him even more, as Rimuru kind of looked with a emotionless face of sorts, as this made again Kurama basically kind of scared, as he took a step back, as this caused Minato to be confused, realizing that the Nine Tails was clearly scared of this being. As the Nine Tails spoke, you're the same person from many years ago. You're Rimuru Tempest, or you're not. As Rimuru simply nodded, as Kurama said, I knew it. Father, so you live after all these years, even after father's death. As Rimuru simply stared at him, not really saying anything. As then Kurama basically said that you should have basically intervened and basically helped father from basically dying. As Kurama realized that he shouldn't have said that, as a small look of anger kind of appeared in Rimuru's eyes. As then Rimuru simply said he would never do that, as even if Harumu had asked for help. As this kind of confused Minato, realizing that this being was talking to Nine Tails as if Nine Tails was beneath him. As Minato was basically confused to his very core, basically, alongside Kushina. However, they knew that they had to hurry up and finish this, as Minato quickly did the final hand signs and basically ordered the Shinigami to basically go and grab the Nine Tails. However, as he was about to grab the Nine Tails, Rimuru simply glared at the Shinigami in annoyance, saying that I wasn't done with this fox. As the Shinigami stopped in his track, not even being able to move. As this completely baffled freaking Minato and Kushina, as they were completely just just completely out of it. Like they could not understand the whole concept of this even being possible. As Minato ended up watching as Kurama talked to Rimuru for a little bit about how what's it called? He about basically being so powerful and yet not really intervening. As Rimuru then said, I will start to move. Like I will basically start to intervene now in this world. As this caught Kurama's attention even more, and Rimuru and Minato could tell that the Nine Tails was kind of a little bit anxious of what was to come next. As he then said, "What will you do when you intervene?" As Rimuru said that he was going to free Kaguya Otsutsuki. As hearing this, Minato saw a look of fear basically appear on Kurama's eyes. Realizing this, and after saying this, the Shinigami suddenly could move again, as Rimuru let the Shinigami move once again. As Shinigami went forward and to basically grab the Nine Tails, with the Nine Tails saying, "No, you should not do that. This would basically destroy the world and bring chaos with her return," basically. With Rimuru simply saying, "No, this is the only outcome that is the best outcome," basically. As this basically caused the Nine Tails to basically simply chuckle, kind of saying, you don't understand what you've been doing with all that power, yet you're so foolish. As Rimuru simply glared at him in annoyance, as even before the Shinigami could finish what he was doing, Rimuru simply made a grasping motion with his hand, completely making the Nine Tails scream out in pain, as his whole body felt like it was about to explode. As this made Minato realize that this being was even stronger than he realized, being able to stop the Shinigami and doing all this to Nine Tails like it was nothing. As before this could continue, however, the Nine Tails simply became a giant ball of just energy, as the Shinigami took him and sealed him to Naruto, not being able to split him like in canon, as it was just a ball of energy now. However, it wasn't permanent, it was temporary, and he would go back to being Kurama. But yeah, as this being sealed in Naruto, as then Shinigami took Minato's soul, and Kushina died soon after. As we have we have another time skip, as we see Kushina, as we see Naruto basically growing up as usual. However, in this one, he was kind of different. He was not as much of a happy-go-lucky kid as usual. He kind of wanted to get out. He didn't want to be there anymore, as he knew that the whole village did not want him to be there, so he did not want to be there as well. And as this happened, he had started to do research on a certain topic. There was a being in Nine Tails attack that appeared to the people that was there, that said that this being had apparently appeared there and basically scared the Nine Tails, and basically gave the Fufukage enough time to seal the Nine Tails away, or kill the Nine Tails, as some would say. As this made Naruto curious to who this being was, and if he could find this being and get this being's help, this could potentially lead to him being able to do what he wanted to do. As he ended up doing research on this being to find something very disturbing from the knowledge from the past. There was a being that was way back in the past that was said to be so strong to beat the entire world if he wanted to. He could do anything he wanted. This being was known as the Demon Lord and went down in history from the Sage of Sixth Path, saying how this being was so powerful he could destroy the entire world in a whim if he wanted to. As this being also matched the description of basically the same being that appeared in the 90s attack. It also matched what the Nine Tails said from what the people said. And yes, Naruto does know about Kurama in this one, being sealed off him. As this basically kind of made Naruto want to look for this being even more, knowing that this being could definitely help him. As he found it, he found what he wanted to find. He found a way to find this being. There was a book that looked like much like a grimoire, with at the end of the book, after explaining about the being Rimuru Tempest, the bringer of chaos, and the master of the most dangerous demon to ever exist, the black, basically Diablo, the black primordial demon, basically. As Naruto basically found the book that Diablo wrote. Basically, at the end of it was a weird symbol of a slime with many patterns on it, like a summoning pattern of sorts. As Naruto saw this, he ended up using his chakra into it, as this ended up making the seal start to glow or ominous black with purple outlines on it. As seconds passed to reveal a big, like the flames that was coming from the little summoning circle type thing basically started to expand and expand as it rose up, and at the end of it, the bottom started to basically form, take physical shape into a being that appeared in front of Naruto. This being Rimuru Tempest, the supreme deity, the current strongest demon lord, and current deity and whatnot, supreme deity. As this made Naruto smirk, realizing that he had a big chance now to basically grasp what he wanted. He had the chance to complete his destiny, complete what he needed to do. As Naruto started to speak to the being. Hello, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and I would like to ask for your help. As this is what I'm going to be lifting up. If you guys liked it and enjoyed, and let me know what you thought about it, and yeah, let me know what you thought about this series, and if you want me to continue on that, and yeah. If you have any particular requests, let me know, and I'll probably get onto it and see what I can do. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to be out for now. Peace.